So imagine you're a humble shopkeeper by day and a dungeon diving, monster slaying loot goblin by night. Sounds like a career path with great benefits and terrible work-life balance. Welcome to Moonlighter, a game that asks the age-old question, why choose between capitalism and chaos when you can have both? Today we're digging into Moonlighter, developed by Digital Sun, and seeing if this little indie darling still shines bright, or if it's just another dusty trinket on the shelf. You play as Will, a shopkeeper living in a sleepy town called Rhinoka, right next to a set of mysterious dimensional dungeons, and instead of doing the logical thing and moving to literally anywhere else, he decides to make his fortune inside them. The narrative is light but charming. You're given just enough context to justify why you're beating the snot out of sentient blobs and trying to sell their spleens for a tidy profit. There's some deeper lore about ancient civilizations and interdimensional trade routes, but unless you're diving into notes and NPC chatter, it mostly takes a backseat to the gameplay loop. That said, there's a subtle joy in watching Rhinoka evolve as you invest your hard-earned gold into the town. First of all, Moonlighter is gorgeous. Pixel art isn't exactly a novelty anymore, but Digital Sun went above and beyond here. The lighting effects, the fluid animations, the detailed dungeon biomes, it all pops with colour and style. Every dungeon has its own aesthetic, from mossy greens and eerie tech ruins to fiery hellscapes that scream, "Please bring a potion." The characters are expressive, the enemies are varied, and even the shop has an inviting warmth, like a fantasy version of a cosy Etsy storefront. As for performance, the game runs smooth as butter. Whether you're playing on PC, console or the Switch, frame rate drops are rare and load times are quick, though on Switch you might occasionally run into a hiccup or two if you're hoarding loot like Smaug. The visuals exhibit a real charm and score 23 out of 25. Now here's where Moonlighter earns its keep. The gameplay loop is absurdly addictive. You venture into dungeons, beat up monsters, collect loot, and then head back home to sell it in your shop. Rinse, repeat, reinvest. And the shopkeeping is not just a click and forget affair. You get to set prices, watch customer reactions, adjust based on demand, and deal with thieves, because apparently capitalism also has a hard mode. As you progress through the game, the option to expand your store opens up. You can add more plinths to display your goods, cash registers that encourage customers to tip, and lots more besides. When you're not trying to be the next Walmart, you'll be diving into the dungeons for more stock, and that means fighting lots of monsters. Combat is fast and mostly satisfying, with different weapons offering distinct playstyles. Great swords for crowd control, spears for keeping enemies at arm's length, fists if you want to roleplay as a fantasy MMA champion, sword and shield if you need a bit of protection, and bows for popping beasties a mile away. You can equip 2 weapons at a time and swap between them at will, pardon the pun. I opted for a poison spear and bow for a chunk of the game. That gave me lots of options for close and long range combat. Although I enjoyed the combat, at times I felt the game was harder than it perhaps should have been. This wasn't really down to the challenge presented by the enemies, but more to do with the fact that it's often difficult to position your character in an appropriate plane to land a blow. I think this is down to the game's handling of the hybrid isometric view. To complement the combat, there's also a dodge roll that's essential because nothing says thrilling dungeon action like panic rolling through encounters. Combat is on the simple side, but the decent range of weapons you can accumulate give fighting some unexpected depth. Progression is well paced, though later dungeons can feel a bit of a grind. Not because the combat isn't fun, but because you need specific materials to upgrade your gear, and RNG can sometimes make you feel like you're trying to find a needle in a pile of angry sword-wielding hay. Still, the combination of roguelite dungeon crawling and business sim mechanics is just weirdly genius. You go from should I heal or keep pushing to how much would someone pay for this glowing lizard bone? Gameplay in Moonlighter is fun and addictive despite the odd frustration with combat, and scores 22 out of 25. Moonlighter's soundtrack is excellent. Each dungeon has its own atmospheric track that does a great job of setting the mood without ever getting in the way. It's not bombastic or orchestral, but more like a lo-fi chill beats playlist with a dash of danger. If some of the music sounds familiar, then you may have played that other indie gem, Death's Door. The talented David Fenn is the man behind both soundtracks and features his trademark sound. Not a bad thing at all. The standout here is the shop theme. It's especially charming. It makes you want to stay in and fine-tune your pricing model for a couple of extra minutes, and that's more than I can say for most in-game economic systems. Sound effects are crisp and satisfying, from the swoosh of your weapons to the thunk of coins hitting the register. It's the little things that make you feel like you're actually running a business while moonlighting as a murder hobo. The audio package here is solid and scores 24 out of 25. So, is Moonlighter worth your time and gold? Absolutely. For the price of a couple of lattes or one slightly disappointing AAA skin pack, you're getting a solid 15 to 20 hours of gameplay on your first run, and if you're the type who loves 100% completion, new game plus content, or min-maxing your shop like a medieval Jeff Bezos, there's a lot more here. There's also some DLC called Between Dimensions, which adds a 5th dungeon and more gear. It doesn't radically change the formula, but it's a nice addition if you're already hooked. What's really impressive is how Moonlighter delivers a polished original loop that never overstays its welcome. It respects your time, tickles your hoarding instincts, and gives you the satisfaction of selling literal junk to overly enthusiastic customers. Value scores 23 out of 25. Moonlighter is like if The Legend of Zelda and Stardew Valley had a beautiful gold-obsessed baby. It's not perfect, some late-game grinding and item juggling can wear thin, but the loop is just too good to put down. So if you've ever wanted to be a sword-swinging entrepreneur with a taste for dungeon loot and markups, this might be your next great obsession. Moonlighter gets an overall score of 92 out of 100. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some jelly remains to overprice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip to the world of Moonlighter, please leave a like, subscribe for more retro reviews, and drop a comment and let me know what you think of Moonlighter. See you next time.